Hey everybody, welcome to Know Your Role, and we're gonna do a flip through of this book over here. This is a slice of, I would like to say, RPG history. Prior to this, there was not really a game like it, and I would like to say that this uh, game took the role-playing game world by storm. Um, Also, I think after this game came out, the LARPing scene or the live action roleplay scene took off as well. And it also came in a time where a lot of vampire movies vampires were the thing. who- The people were watching, they were vampire books, Anne Rice books. I mean, of course, there were books before, but there were all these movies that were coming out. Vampires were hip, and when you have something that's hip, you get a rulebook like this. Now, this is the second edition rulebook of a Vampire the Masquerade, written by Mark Ryan Hagen, who I mean, he became a slight celebrity in the RP world for a long while, and this is uh, actually made by or produced by White Wolf. As you can see, it's the second edition. I've got the first edition somewhere, but I can only find the second edition book. Yes. So let's quickly flip through this. There are videos online that will go into the world. But what I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to go through this rulebook very quickly and hopefully very briefly. uh, I would really encourage you to seek out more information if you find any of this interesting. There are lots of videos that have really pushed the game into the world of you know breaking down all the different clans and factions and stuff like that. But the reason I want to look at this rulebook was this was when the game was, well, I want to say relatively new, and because of this, everything was slightly simpler. And if you are going to get into Vampire the Masquerade, I would recommend this first. I understand that the I think the fifth age is out, or the fifth book is out, but go for this one if you can find it in I don't know, the uh, garage sale, or if you can find it in online somewhere. Get this one. It's a simple one because this rulebook concentrates on just the Camarilla and just the Camarilla clans. Simple. Later, of course, you can actually get into the different clans and the different intrigues that happen between the clans. But I highly recommend getting this one if you get just getting into it, because if you were to get the newer books, yeah, this is so much to absorb. But hey, let's browse this book very quickly to see what's inside. Again, you've got the yeah, Vampire the Masquerade's got a little bit of some staining over there. This book's been with me for quite a long while. You got the table of contents, and you've got the preface or the introduction. Now, what I really like about the book is how the book's designed. The book's filled with art, very much like this is ink art, and it really draws you in. The Vampire World from White Wolf is known for it being the theater of the mind uh, kind of role playing game, and the books like this, or it started off with books like this, where it puts you into the world very very nicely, talking about all the different parts of the world and giving you as a lot of background. I think a lot of folks, myself included, was very very influenced or really enjoyed the fluff, really enjoyed reading into this, and I think this is why the whole White World of Darkness thing took off. But at this point of publication, this was the book that was out. So first off, we've got the introduction. Again, more nice looking art, and this is basically introduction of what it is. The dungeon master is called the storyteller. We talk about the players, different brutes, the playing aids, and then the LARPing, the live action stuff. Now I want to say very quickly that one of the reasons that I really like, one of the reasons that made me really like the rule book is the fact that in the early books they actually took let me see if I can show you this, quotes from bands, and these are bands I like, just to get you into this thing. Like for example, over here, to introduce the meaning of the myth part of the book, they've got the Cure, the Homesick lyrics from the Homesick song, which is great. And you've got like things like Joy Division, Minor Threat, and I like this. I really, really like this because being a fan of these bands and the kind of music these bands were doing, this role playing game, well, it was for me at least an intersection of two of my big joys in life, gaming and music, or at least at that point. So moving along, we got chapter two, and chapter two. Yeah, you also have some biblical quotes as well. The This book was great. I mean, it really set the tone for what you're gonna get. And of course, looking back now, it looks rather simple, the way of looking at things, but I think it did its job very, very well. If you're gonna call it, if you're gonna start a genre or a type of role playing, you start out with a lot of background. So yeah, the setting is described as gothic punk, and over the course of like the next few pages, they tell you about how the game works. Oh, no, the how the different parts of the game. For example, you've got the social distinctions. You got what a prince is, and this is basically for you to understand the social structure of the vampire society. Then you got the intrigue, and you got the traditions. The traditions, I want to say the rules or the commandments, perhaps, and it's done really nicely. It's got this very commandment feel. For example, the first tradition, the masquerade: "Thou shalt not reveal thy true nature to those not of the blood. Doing such shall renounce thy claims of blood." Very nice stuff. Very nicely written. Very nicely put together. Oh yeah, look, there's a quote from Rudyard Kipling as well. So yeah, pulling elements from film pop culture just to, really draw you in. And by the way, this when did this come out? This came out in what year was this? Let me see if I can find it. It's gotta be here somewhere. 1992, man. Whew, that's quite a while back. Yeah, and this is how you draw your players in. Anyways, as I was saying earlier, the game is basically set within the confines of the Camarilla, and here's where they explain what the Camarilla is, what the different bloodlines are, and a quick description of the different of the different clans, which is well, I would like to call it introduction to the different clans, and and then all the different elements that make up the game, right? At this point, the lupines or the werewolves were still I want to say a thought or an idea. So were the magi and the ghouls. Later, of course, you get werewolf the apocalypse and stuff like that. Okay, so you got generations, and this is how you differentiate. I want to say a ranking, or perhaps the quality of the blood, or what makes you a stronger vampire from it starts off from Cain and moving all the way down to the different generations. Now, I understand that this rule book has a lot of very Abrahamic traditions shoved in here, but at the time, this was it. And of course, if you put references to the Bible and Abrahamic religions, it's something that at the time people who are getting into it could understand and jump in. Anyways, you got the lexicon, and these are all the common parlances, the words you can use that just bring you into the game. I mean, Shadowrun did the same thing as well. And I think taking cue from Shadowrun was a good idea. When you start using the different lexicons, it helps bring the player in and stuff, like, including the vulgar stuff. Anyways, moving along, this is where the game differs from most other role playing games that came out at the time. And this chapter three, the storytelling. Most games of Vampire the Masquerade is basically a hangout session. I mean, most of my games were pretty much like that, but with a lot of intrigue and a lot of chit chat, but also with some elements. For example, as you can see here, there's some suspense. But it's basically get pulling the players into the world, and you'll be surprised. I mean, it sounds very like you know uh non heavy when you're just having a chit chat, but when you're having a chit chat and you are adopting the different clans or the characters that you've rolled up, right? Or should I say allocated, not rolled up. This game doesn't roll characters up, it allocates. You actually get yourself really, really driven in, and very, pretty much like the horoscope. You you gravitate to a certain clan, whatever it is. But that's later. That's later. Anyways, moving along, flipping and stuff. Oh yeah, and I like rule books that do this, do's and don'ts when role playing, which is great. Yeah, which is great. Then the Book of Nod. I actually have the Book of Nod somewhere in my storeroom. I'll give that a flip as well. But this is a little bit of the Book of Nod, which is I want to say uh it's the quote unquote vampiric Bible. Anyways, book two, The Becoming, and here is where the rules come in. About like 75 pages in, and then we got the rules. And this game works on successes. So what happens is, when you're asked to do something, you are given how much success you need to roll to get, and then you roll, and then the degrees of success is given by the storyteller by how many successes you get. It's a very 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 simple rule, um, and because of that, games flow much much faster. In more uh, traditional games at a time, there were all the stats that you had to go through one by one. But because this had a very simple system, people got into really really quick. In fact, most of the games I had in with new players, it was easy for them to get into it because it was less rule heavy and more role playing heavy. Yeah, and now which brings us to the character. Here is where the steps you take to make a character, and you get your concept, and of course the concept of the different clans, and then you get your archetypes. This basically helps choose. If I was gonna use a much more loose way of describing character generation for Vampire the Masquerade, it's more you're writing a story and you're writing up the character you have in the story, and less about how strong you are and stuff like that. Which is why when the game came out, a lot of folks tend to really really identify with the clans because they could see themselves in each one of the clans, which I thought was really great. Folks would gravitate to certain clan archetypes and stuff like that. Anyway, so moving along, you got the Chronicle, and the Chronicle is pretty much your campaign or your story, your campaign. And you got your steps on how to put the story together, how to put the Chronicle together, your themes, your conflicts. All of this help, as you can see from most of the pages that I flipped. They're less numbers and they're more like ideas, that they want you to incorporate into your games, which is great. I mean, this pretty much tells you that the game's more story based and less you know it's actually less fighting as well, to be honest. Much less. It's more intrigue, which is very very Vampire the Masquerade. Anyways, you got chapter 7, and chapter 7 is the traits, and here's where we look at the clans. There are groups, there are channels online that talk about different clans, but very quickly, this is the Bruja, and I would like to call them more of the natural Lost Boys kind of vampires. The Gangrel, and Gangrel are more like I want to say the nature or slightly beast-like vampires. Of course, that's an overgeneralization. They got they're much more than that. And then got the Malkavians or the Crazies. Um, we have the Nosferatu, and these are I would like to say the more horrific or monstrous of the clans. The Tordo, or the beauties, the beautiful ones. Um, and then moving on to the Tremere. These are the mages. The Ventru. These are, well, I would like to. They are leaders. They are folks who yeah, they say blue bloods, and pretty much gives you an idea. They have this thing where they've got to be on top. They need the power. They need the structure to work. And then after you've chosen your clan, you choose the personality archetypes that you want to go for. These are some recommendations, of course. Um you're recommended to work with your storyteller to work out an archetype for yourself, and suggestions. Most of these are suggestions um on how to set. For example, if you set certain points into certain abilities, what it basically means. It's more of an example of what it means when you put certain points into certain like skills and traits. Then you got your disciplines, and disciplines are basically I want to call them like well, not really spells, but your ability, yeah. And each clan has their own, ability that they gravitate to. Moving along, got all of this, and like I said, there's so much to read, and less about numbers, more about like recommendations, and even when they put like dots, right? What blood rage is, two dots, what it means, right? Yeah, a little bit. Sometimes they introduce the what it means for the game, but mostly it's storytelling, all in all storytelling. If you're playing a role playing game and you feel that you're gravitating more towards getting into the character and less about hacking and slashing and stuff like that, I highly recommend picking up a White Wolf game and perhaps trying an earlier book, simply because it's much simpler. I mean, you don't have to worry about all the other clans, you just worry about the Camarilla ones for now. It should get you off to a great start. Okay, anyways, you got your systems, and this is basically XP. I mean, role playing games have XP, and if what makes a role playing game is when you advance and the character gets better. And then you've got things like death and your injury and stuff like that. But again, most of this pretty much recommendations and pretty much more story based. Uh, for example, derangements and stuff. When you get derangements, it's just recommendations for me. That's what I got from this rulebook actually, which was really great because considering the fact that the rulebook that was out at this time was more you know hack and slash, right? This was different. Anyways, chapter 9 is the drama, and here is where you break down your scenes, and scenes are pretty much your I want to say scenarios that make up your chronicle. Which again, if you manage to get a hold of this book, it's a lot of reading, and it's written really really nicely. And whenever you think, right, they couldn't outdo themselves with the art, you introduce different kinds of art. You know what, when I first looked through this book, I was impressed by the types of art that was in here. Everything from hard like inking to using like a watercolor thing. Very, very nice. Anyways, so you've got these examples of play, and this is for those who need a little bit of a guide on how to actually run their games, which is extremely helpful for any role-playing game. One thing, have a little bit of success, because let me just say that while there are groups all around the world who play a certain kind of game, there will be small groups or a person in a town very 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 far away from anything that wants to learn how to do this. And well, these days there is the internet for you to fall back on. Back then there wasn't, so stuff like this is great. It helps you know jumpstart whatever it is that you want to do. Anyway, so here's the appendix, and as you can see, um, most of the book, um, for me at least, is just well designed, very very well designed. And you got your cast characters. These are, I would like to say, the example characters that you can actually pull. So if you're uh, in a storyteller, you can actually introduce any of these characters into your game if you want to, because they've got role playing tips and a description and stuff like that. So if you're just learning how to play and just learning how to get into the game, this would help bring in the other kindred into your game without having too much trouble. And it also gives a guide to your players on how they want to create their characters. The descriptions and the notes and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Most of this is basically just, I want to say, the toppings on the game. You got a quick index to look for. Toppings on the game to make the game better, and your character sheet. As you can see, look at the character sheet very very quickly. This is basically dots. So the amount of dots you put into each of the abilities tells you how good you are at those abilities, and that is covered in the rule part of the game. If you look very very closely, you will see that it's a one page thing. But I wanna talk about this very very quickly. Now, When you get this rulebook, you will get to this last page, and you get uh, it's where they draw inspiration from. So right, so you got the movies, but these are movies that came up till 1982, I guess. So you get the movies that inspired the book, the music that you can listen to get into the feel. You got the novels, you got the games, and yes, the thinkers as well. So it gives you places to go when you're done with this book, to get inspired. And that's pretty much it. I remember when this book came out, it was really really exciting. We ran a couple of games. I ran a couple of games, and then when my shop opened, we did a lot of games with Vampire the Masquerade, and it was a big success to people who were not really role playing game RPGers. Get people who were wanted to come in and have a good time without worrying about scoring and all the different tactics and bonuses and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a really good rule book. If you can find this anywhere on a secondhand book stand, go pick it up. It's a good buy, and it's a good place to start playing Vampire the Masquerade. Now later we will look at all the other rule sets, but this is a great jump off point to the world of darkness, which is basically the world of Vampire the Masquerade. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed my quick flip through this rulebook. Again, let me know in the comments. If you've played this game, or when did you play this game, or what you like about this game, and maybe we can have a conversation over there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, subscribe, and don't forget to enjoy painting those videos.